Beaten team in the NFL at 6-0. Just 2 weeks ago, these Colts gave the Dolphins their first loss. Miami has since suffered another loss to the Jets and now finds itself tied atop the AFC East standings with Buffalo. The Indianapolis Colts still very much a part of the playoff race at 4-4. Hi, everyone. Dan Hicks with Dan Hampton here at the Hoosier Dome. Sold out for a big one, the rematch. And Dan, the Miami Dolphins just a few weeks ago, we were lauding them perhaps as punching a ticket to Pasadena for the Super Bowl. How quickly things have changed.
Well, they have. And in the last two losses, the big problem has been on defense, where they're having a hard time stopping anybody with that linebacker, John Offerdahl. Now, the Pro Bowler is inactive today, along with nose tackle Chuck Klingbeil. Now, that's going to gut the center of that Dolphin defense.
Well, offensively, Miami's offense is really sputtering as well. Is it possible that Dan Marino has just too many weapons to distribute the ball to?
Well, after the addition of tight end Keith Jackson, they were firing early, but now the last 2 weeks, the mix has gotten a little bit too thick, and some of the guys are saying, hey, I'm not included enough here. Mark Clayton has come out publicly saying that, and Don Shula said yesterday, I'm having a hard time finding that mix that puts a smile on everybody's face come Monday.
Well, for Indianapolis, its worst offensive output last week, just 99 yards, the worst offensive output since the Colts made the trip here to Indianapolis 8 years ago in 1984. And Jeff George really banged up last week against San Diego.
Well, San Diego did beat on Jeff George, and the big reason was the fact that his offensive line was beat up. Today, they're intact. They will have to protect Jeff George to have a chance against this Dolphin team.
There is the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts, Ted Marchibroda, in his first year trying to rebuild a team that went 1-15 last season. The Colts 4-4, still very much a part of the playoff race in the AFC East. And to kick it off for Indianapolis is Dean Biasucci back deep, Bernie Parmalee and Mike Williams for the Dolphins. And it'll be Parmalee to come out. Across the 20 all the way up to the 30 to the 31-yard line, where the Dolphins will start first down and 10. Dan Marino, the franchise quarterback. And the same offensive weapons he'll use today, Mark Hicks and Tony Page in the backfield. We will see Bobby Humphrey in the third down situations, and maybe he'll run the ball more today. Duper and Clayton, the great wideouts. Keith Jackson, the big tight end, number 88. Up front, the big left side, Richmond Webb and Keith Sims, Ulinik, Galbraith, and Dennis round out the offensive line. And the first play of the game, Mark Hicks gets the call, and he busts up the middle for 600-700 yards. And let's set the Indianapolis Colts defense for you. Steve Entman, who had that big 90-yard interception return the last time these two clubs faced off a couple of weeks ago, is having an outstanding season. Scott Radisick, of course, starting for injured Quentin Coriat, the NFL's number 2 pick at left inside linebacker. Jeff Herrod has a banged-up shoulder. He'll go as long as he can. Good, Daniel Baylor and Pryor, the defensive backs. On second down and 4. It is Hicks again, and this time he is stopped for maybe a yard. Jeff Herrod on the stop for Indianapolis, Dan. And here's a guy that didn't know he was going to play in this game until late in the week.
Well, you can see there that he's got his left shoulder really taped heavily, and that's his big problem today. Hey, I'll go as long as I can, but that shoulder has been a big worry for the Indianapolis defense this week. This guy is the heart and soul. He's led the team in tackles the last 3 years. If he plays, it's a lot better defense.
Well, Bobby Humphrey has come in on third down and 2. And Humphrey gets the carry across the 40, very close to a first down.
Well, it looks like Bobby Humphrey has enabled Miami to get the first down, and that's something that's going to be a big telling fact in the game today. Last week, Miami's offense was 1 of 9 in third down attempts, and normally they lead the league, Dan, and that's really uncharacteristic of Miami with Marino.
We will be tracking Miami's yardage gained on first down throughout this game today. Indianapolis has just been atrocious in its last 3 games in yardage given up on first down. Marino will throw, and he's got the big fullback Tony Page, who is met at the 48-yard line by Eugene Daniel. What a hit by the 9th-year man out of LSU. We mentioned the Colts defense on first down. Check out the graphic at the bottom. 7.4 average yards allowed on first down the last 3 games, and that'll put any defense in a big hole. That's an average of about 2nd down and 3 for the offense. And that's exactly what it is right now as Miami comes out throwing again. Hicks complete across the 40, inside the 35, all the way down to the 32-yard line. Eugene Daniel on the tackle for Indianapolis.
Well, Rick Venturi, the defensive coordinator for the Colts, says, hey, first down is the most important stat to us because that enables us to get into our packages on 2nd and 3rd. They're 2nd and short. The Dolphins had it down to throw away. They threw the ball. They made a big gainer. And that is what you have to do. You've got to stop people on first to put them in a predictable situation. There, Miami, when it gets the grain, made a big play.
19 yards for Hicks. 1st and 10. Miami. And Marino has his big tight end, Keith Jackson, to the 25-yard line. And Keith Jackson feeling healthier this game. A couple of weeks ago when Miami was beaten by the Colts, Jackson suffered a groin injury and even felt it last week in the loss to the Jets. But he's feeling 100%. And how important is that to the Miami offensive scheme?
Well, not only the fact that, you know, it affects his pass catching ability, but when you have a groin pull, Dan, you can't get in the stance. You can't come out of that stance with any power and block anybody. And, you know, the ground game has suffered for the fact that he has been injured.
And another big yardage given up by the Indianapolis Colts on the first down. So it is 2nd down and 3. The pitch to Higgs. He'll have the first down and more, all the way down inside the 15 to the 12-yard line. John Baylor, the free safety, came up to make the hit on Higgs, who has been a workhorse in this opening Miami drive.
Well, Miami has had a hard time getting that ground game going the last couple of weeks, and here we're seeing Higgs ripping through that Colt front for some big gainers, and that is very important. A lot of people think of Miami with Marino being able to throw the ball all the time. Believe me, if Miami can ever get a ground game going, he's twice as dangerous.
13 yards for Higgs. 1st and 10. Marino to throw on first down. Complete. Tony Page inside the 5, down to the 4-yard line. Scott Radisek made the stop for Indianapolis. Dan Marino has been sputtering in the early portions of the last 2 games especially, but Miami has come out and just moved the ball at will in this opening series. 9:43 in the first quarter. The ball at the 4.
The big reason is first down. They've been very successful, which makes it easy for the offense.
2nd down, a long yard. And here's Hicks. Maybe got the first down, which would be 1st and goal. We'll wait and see what the officials spot it. And they may want to measure to see if the Dolphins indeed got the first down. So the Dolphins just right off the bat in the first series dictating the tempo right off the bat. We saw some serious faces, Dan, before this game started down on the field. Miami seemed intent on this payback, if you want to call it that.
Well, there's no question about the fact that Indianapolis going into Miami, beating the Dolphins down there, it created, you know, a very stressful situation for this Dolphin team. They were undefeated. Now, you know, they have to be under the premise of, hey, we've got to get back into this thing. They're tied with Buffalo. Having Buffalo next week at home, they feel like this is a must game, and you can feel that sense of urgency from Don Shula, from Dan Marino, practically everyone on this Dolphin team.
Well, the Dolphins 1st and goal from the 2-yard line, the 10th play of this opening drive. Marino's pass complete. Touchdown, Keith Jackson. I would say a clinic on Miami's opening drive of this game.
Well, a couple of weeks ago, we had the opportunity of watching the Dolphins destroy New England, and it was basically the same type of game plan. They mixed the run and pass here. Jackson getting out the line of scrimmage, just running a slant pattern, just outrunning a linebacker. And that's the problem with him. He's too big to put a linebacker on, but geez, you just got to find a way to jam him, keep him on the line to have a chance.
Keith Jackson's 5th touchdown of the season. Pete Stoyanovich to tack on the extra point to make it 7-0. So quickly with 8:57 in the first quarter, Miami 7, Indianapolis nothing.
Jam at the line of scrimmage. He's too big for safety to do it. You'll see him just run away from Mike Pryor here. Easy play for Dan Marino to find. So,
yeah.
Hicks' reception was his longest of his career.
What's that? What's that, Vic? Okay. You want to take it, Dan?
just bring us in. I'm not being able to watch. I'm going to have to be right here. Say, hey, Dan, Marino made it look easy or something.
10 seconds. Here we go.
Miami quickly up 7-0 on Indianapolis. Another look at the touchdown to Keith Jackson, Dan.
Well, here's Keith Jackson right here. If you don't jam this guy, he's too big for safety to do it. You'll see Jackson just run off and run away from Mike Pryor. Hey, it's too easy of a play. You've got to jam Jackson on the line to get him stopped and disrupt that timing. Here, Marino, hey, that's child's play for him.
An offensive clinic for Miami. Keith Jackson with a touchdown. The scoring drive, just 10 plays, 69 yards, and it took all of 6 minutes and 3 seconds. And you look at that average on first down. We alluded to it as Miami came out of the opening series. 6.2 average yards on first down given up by the Colts. They came into the game 7.4 given up on first down the last 3 games. Pete Stoyanovich to kick off. And this is Clarence Verdun from about a yard deep across the 15. He's going to take it to the left side. Flag on the play across the 30, 40, 45 before he's finally pushed out of bounds. But a flag is at the 19-yard line, and we'll wait and see if they bring an excellent return by Clarence Verdun back, and apparently they will, holding against the Colts.
Well, a lot of times when a returner starts on one side of the field and tries to break it all the way back across, those blockers will be watched for holding because you'll have to change direction on the man you're blocking there. Verdun, a very exciting player.
On the return, number 92 will penalize half the distance to the goal line. First down.
You know, this guy's very exciting. You know, the players, you know, gave him a nickname of CNN. I asked him, who gave him the nickname, Dan? You remember what he said? He gave it to himself.
He's a talker. So instead of an excellent return by Verdun, which would have put the ball all the way up at the 44-yard line, the Colts will begin at the 9-yard line. Jeff George. In his 3rd year out of Illinois, the #1 pick overall, harassed more last week and banged up perhaps more last week than any time in his career. And it looks like Marco Coleman, the right end of Miami, jumped offside. So it could be 1st and 5.
Don Shula talked about Coleman having a nonstop motor. He needs to push the clutch in every once in a while.
Encroachment, defense number 90, 5-yard penalty, still first down.
Right side of your screen, you'll see Coleman out here in a 4-man line defensive end position. Just jump. No ifs, ands, or buts. Marco just guessed a little bit there.
So 1st and 5 for Indianapolis. And this is Anthony Johnson, the running back. The Colts on offense today. Jeff George at quarterback. Johnson, who just had the carry, at one of the running backs. The blocking back, Maurice Carthon, Jesse Hester, and Bill Brooks, the wideouts. And tight end Kerry Cash becoming a big part of this offense. Jeff George has his offensive line, his starting offensive line, back this week. Zephyrus Moss and Randy Dixon both missed last week's game. Ron Solt, the right guard, has a banged-up shoulder. He'll go as long as he can. On 2nd down and short, here is Cash, complete to the 19-yard line. That'll be very close to a first down. Lifford Hobley on the coverage for the Colts. The Dolphins front seven. T.J. Turner getting the start at nose tackle for Chuck Klingbeil, and Mark Sander getting the start for John Offerdahl at right inside linebacker. So up the middle, Miami perhaps a little more vulnerable today. In the secondary, it is Vincent, Brown, Williams, and Lewis Oliver. Third down, very short yardage for the Colts, who are just 34% of their third down conversions this year. And here is Rodney Culver, who picks up the first down for Indianapolis. Well, Dan, we talked with Jeff George yesterday, and it almost brought up memories of last year's nightmarish 1-15 season. The Colts mustering just 99 yards total offense, their worst offensive output since the Colts moved here to Indianapolis 8 years ago. And Jeff George suffered a few nightmares last week.
Well, he's got his line back. That's going to be a big asset to him.
First and 10 for the 21. George to throw on first down, and he has his man, Reggie Langhorne, complete at the 33-yard line. So the longtime Cleveland Brown, Reggie Langhorne, picks up the first down for the Colts. J.B. Brown, the right cornerback, on the coverage.
Yeah, as you see here, the Colts are feeling more comfortable with this no-huddle, call-at-the-line offense, and George is starting to really figure it out.
Anthony Johnson across the 35, and so far the Colts rushing attack looking a lot better than it did last week. And 2 weeks ago versus Miami, Dan, the Colts were able to move the football, and the key to Ted Marchibroda's team week in, week out this season has been the offensive line.
Well, when their line is intact, they move the ball pretty well because they've got a great quarterback, some good receivers, a decent running game. But the fact is, if you take away the left tackle, left guard, right guard of any team will struggle, and it's good to have them back.
2nd and 7. Some movement on the left side of the Colts offensive line, so the flags are thrown.
False start, offense, number 73, 5-yard penalty, still second down.
That is Zephyrus Moss, the left tackle for Indianapolis, who's missed the last couple of games with an ankle injury. So, well, the rookie's just getting used to game action again.
Well, he's lined up on the rookie, Marco Coleman, and Coleman can get up the field pretty quick. That's why he jumped.
So 5-yard penalty, 2nd down and 11. George to throw, complete to Anthony Johnson out of the backfield for maybe a couple of yards to the 35-yard line. In fact, they'll spot it at the 37-yard line. Brian Cox, Mark Sander on the coverage for Miami.
Well, Zephyrus Moss is a very important part of this line. Now, your left tackle for any quarterback is your most important guy because he's the one that protects back door. You see him doing a good job on Coleman there. Coleman trying to get upfield and get back under.
On 3rd down, George's pass complete at midfield. A flag on the play. The pass complete to Kerry Cash, the tight end. Lifford Hobley on the coverage. Early on, Jeff George is also getting time to throw. We'll wait and see what the call is.
We have an unsportsmanlike act. We have a chop block. One player blocking high, another player going low at the same time. 15 yards, unsportsmanlike.
Normally that is on a defensive tackle or a defensive end. The offensive lineman engages him, and then another guy will chop him. We'll take a look here in the center of our screen. You see Jeff Cross, 91, coming inside. There, then you see the guard, Randy Dixon, come back and try to chop him at the last second. It's a good call. He was engaged with the center.
15-yard penalty, 3rd and 22. George feels the pressure, and he'll go down at the 16-yard line. It appears that Jeff Cross got credit for the sack. So Jeff George goes down for the 111th time in his NFL career.
Well, last week it was almost like a track meet. Everybody trying to get to Jeff George before he could set up. There it looks like the same scenario. And how you get out of that situation? Be able to get in a 3rd and short, not a 3rd and long.
So Miami sends Scott Miller back to receive Ron Stark's punt, the #1 punter in the NFL. And chances are Stark will hit some boomers today, averaging 47.2 a punt. He stands at his 2-yard line, and the lefty gets off a rather short punt for his standards, and Miller downs it at the 44-yard line for Miami, and the Dolphins will come out for their second series. They struck quickly on their first one, 7-0 Dolphins. Story already developing on the Miami sidelines. There is Mark Clayton, who has been complaining this week that he has not been an integral part of the offense, and says he just had 2 plays in which he was the primary receiver last week. He was quite vocal about it this past week, and Tony Martin is in the lineup as Miami begins its second series of the game. Marino to throw, complete to Keith Jackson, who is inside the 40 before he is dragged down at the 38-yard line by Scott Radisick. So Miami picking up just where it left out in the first series.
Well, Indianapolis went with a mix of zone there, and Keith Jackson is maybe the best tight end in the league at finding a hole in a zone. Here you'll see coming from the left side there, Keith Jackson runs up, gets off of his linebacker, who is basically in a tailgate position. He just pushed off, got open, easy catch. 1st and 10. Mark Clayton has rejoined the offense for Miami.
This time it's Hicks with a big hole on the right side across the 25-20. Down to the 15-yard line of Indianapolis before Mike Pryor finally knocks him down, and once again the Colts give up the huge yardage on 1st down.
Well, left guard Keith Sims has a key block. He's up the left of your screen here. He's working on those big guys up the middle. There you'll see Hicks just ripped through there. Now they're getting a good surge against that Colt front wall, and you know they drafted, of course, Steve Entman to help that run defense. But another guy that they're missing is Coriat, the great linebacker, rookie prospect. He's not out today. He's inactive. They're really showing the big holes in Miami's final.
Gain of 23 for Hicks. Here he is again across the 10, inside the 5, down to the 3-yard line. Another 1st and 10 for Miami. So the Colts unable to stop anything that Miami brings their way. Mike Pryor finally dragged Hicks down before another big game.
That right side is really smashing the left side of the Colt defense. Mark Dennis and Harry Galbraith, the right side, is doing a good job on the big rookie Entman, and of course the linebacker they have in there. I tell you, that would be Sanders. Miami is just ripping this Colt front to shreds here.
1st and goal from the 3. Hicks down to the 1. Touchdown Miami. Mark Hicks. And you can feel already the crowd, the first sellout crowd at Indianapolis in a year, is taken out of this ball game in a hurry, as the Dolphins have scored twice on their first 2 possessions, and it has been more than just easy.
Well, Dwayne Bickett, the outside linebacker, had a knife charge inside. He had a shot at Hicks. Hicks ran through his tackle.
Hicks, the leading rusher for Miami. That's his 7th touchdown of the season. Pete Stoyanovich makes it 14-0 Miami. 2:19 to go in the first quarter, and it has been all Dolphins.
Can you see it?
Almost
okay, they're flare blocking here. McCoy, the little rookie nose guard, runs himself completely out of the picture, creating a big gap for Hicks just to slash through. Okay.
We're going to look at this touchdown. Okay. And then we might want to get a shot of Higgs if we have time.
All right. Let me see it one more time.
Okay, got you, Vic. Want to take it out here?
No, go ahead. I can't.
14-0 Miami. Let's take a look at their second touchdown.
Well, they're in so close. This linebacker's off the line of scrimmage. The nose guard runs himself out of the play. These guys just flare block. Hicks has an easy touchdown score.
Mark Hicks, 61 yards, rushing already, averaging almost 9 yards a carry. He's carried it 7 times. Keith Jackson was the recipient of the Marino touchdown, which made it 7-0, and now Mark Hicks, in his 5th year out of Kentucky, makes it 14-0, and It has been all Miami early. The Colts handing the Dolphins their first loss of the season a couple of weeks ago at Joe Robbie Stadium. And Miami, at least early, seeming intent on a payback. Clearance for Dan, downs it in the end zone. The Colts will bring it out 1st and 10 from their 20 and see if they can get some offense mustered. Okay, we got any copy on this? We got any copy on this? We got any? There we go. Let's see. We got 3-0 Philly. Okay, thank you very much. Just hold on to these for a second. Thanks, man. So far here by the Miami Dolphins, who have scored with ease on their first 2 series of the game. 14-0. Jeff George comes out and tries to get the Colt offense on track. He'll throw. Incomplete. Intended for Jesse Hester. 3rd year with the Colts, 7th year in the NFL. He's caught a ball in 38 straight games, so Jesse Hester, one of the mainstays of the Indianapolis receiving corps.
Well, he's a fast guy. You've got to have a fast guy on offense, and he's the guy they want to get deep.
2nd and 10. George this time swings it out to the running back, Anthony Johnson. He tries to put a couple of moves there on for 29, Lifford Hobley. And Indianapolis still searching for some answers. Jeff George sacked 6 times last week. He has been sacked 17 times in the last 5 games coming into this ball game. He's already been sacked once today. And we mentioned that in his 34-game career, he's been sacked 110 times out of the shotgun. 3rd and 9, trying to thread the needle to his tight end Kerry Cash, but excellent defensive play by Bruce Alexander, the cornerback for Miami.
Terrific job, Alexander, getting on the backside of the receiver and fighting him for the ball. Now, George is getting a little bit of pressure here. The pocket's caving in, but you see 32 in the center of your screen, just really doing a good job playing that over-under kind of technique. You get a guy underneath, the guy over the top, it's hard to put the ball in there.
Well, so far this game, as far as Indianapolis is concerned, looking a whole lot like last week's game against San Diego. And Ron Stark was one of the bright spots of that game against the Chargers. The NFL's #1 punter, set to put it in the air again. Scott Miller back deep for Miami. And he hangs a pretty good one this time. Miller calls for the fair catch, which will be made at the 38-yard line. So starts with a 40-yard punt, not exactly up to his standards. His 40-yard punt earlier in the ball game. And Dan Marino comes out for his 3rd series, and no one in the NFL perhaps has more weapons to choose from than Dan Hampton. As many as 8 receivers you'll see in the reception column from game to game, and this is just an indication of the distribution for Mr. Marino.
Well, 4 of those guys have been to the Pro Bowl, so not only a lot, but a lot of quality too.
Well, Tony Martin into the ball game again for Mark Clayton as Miami starts this one out at the 39-yard line. And Mark Hicks, who has been racking up some big yardage so far, is stopped this time behind the line of scrimmage by big Steve Entman, the #1 pick.
Well, if you go around the league and you look for young guys that really are impressive, this one is probably at the top of the list. Number 90, Steve Entman, here taking a knife charge down inside on the right tackle, Mark Dennis. Hey, you don't do it better than that, folks. This guy is a big, strong bull. He's not as nifty as a lot of folks, but believe me, he'll club you to death.
Anybody you talk to, Dan, says Steve Entman has one of the best work ethics you'll find in the game. Just a relentless pass rusher.
Well, that technique worked.
2nd and 12 for the Dolphins. Marino holds in the pocket, waits and finds Keith Jackson for the 1st down. Jackson all the way down to the Colt 42-yard line before Jason Belser was able to wrestle him down.
Well, Keith Jackson, now this is a big problem for Indianapolis. Not only does it look like Entman is down, but their fine outside linebacker Pickett was trailing Keith Jackson on the play. It looked like he popped a hamstring.
Quentin Coriat was injured, broke his wrist in the Indianapolis in their first game with Miami. And here is Steve Entman, the #1 pick. Horiat was the #2 pick, and this could be devastating for the Colts.
Flush.
Well,
and that's a guy that, I mean, he'd cut off his arm to be back out there on the series. I mean, it's a shame.
15 seconds to go in the first quarter. Miami with a 1st and 10 on the Keith Jackson reception, and Marino all day picks out a receiver, and this time it's Mark Hicks. That's complete at the 32-yard line. Jeff Harrod for the Colts made the stop, and with time running out in the first quarter, this has been all Miami. They lead at 14-0. We'll be back to the Hoosier Dome after these messages. Physical contact. Again, we will have the word from the Indianapolis sideline, and we will pass it on to you. Miami, in the meantime, working on its 3rd series of the game. It has scored on its first 2 series. Mark Hicks stopped in the Miami backfield this time. Tony Walker on the stop for the Colts, and it is really deathly silent here, Dan, as we start the second quarter. The Indianapolis crowd very upset with the absence of Steve Entman. And
well, to have a chance in a game like this, you're going to have your big horses play big, and he's as big a horse as you got on defense. Now, you know, like I said, Quentin Coriat's out, now Entman. Bickett's out. Their defense is really decimated. And I mean, they got the depth of the waiting pool over there. It's not that good once you get past that front line, so they're going to have big problems.
Well, 3rd and 5 for Miami as Entman gets carted off. Marino fumbled the football as he tried to pass it, and the referee is indicating it is the Dolphins football, so it looks like they're going to call it an incomplete pass.
Well, I think the old master Dan Marino may have pulled the wool over the officials out here. Looks like he felt a lot of pressure. He said, I just act like I'm throwing this thing and throwing the dirt. Here you'll see him feeling some pressure. There. It's hard to say from here, but
well, that's his only incomplete pass of the game. He's 8 for 9, and this one never had a chance.
I don't think he knew what he was going to do with it either. Big Rich from the Webb thinks it's a fumble. He's going after it.
Well, you can hear the Hoosier Dome. This is Pete Stoyanovich attempting a 54-yard field goal for Miami. Scott Mitchell will hold. The ball snapped. It is loose. Referees have stopped play.
Timeout. Miami prior to the snap. Their first timeout.
And the referee saying Miami called a timeout prior to the snap. And we'll be back at the Hoosier Dome. He has a 53-yarder this year. He is 14 of 17 on field goal attempts this year. The only ones he has missed have been from 50-plus yards. Scott Mitchell to hold. It's got enough leg, but it is wide to the right. So Pete Stoyanovich misses from 54 yards, and the score remains Miami 14, Indianapolis nothing. Well, next Saturday on NBC, more great begins at 1 Eastern time with Notre Dame Saturday. 1st and 10 for the Colts from their own 37. The reverse. This is Bill Brooks. And he'll get down to the 44-yard line before T.J. Turner, the nose tackle, makes the stop. Turner, of course, getting the start for the injured Chuck Klingbeil on Miami's defense.
Well, that's a good call because you've got to keep this Miami Dolphin defense honest. Here you got to make them respect all of the field, not just at certain points. Reverse always does a good job of slowing linebackers flowing down.
Well, just the 2nd carry of the year for Bill Brooks. And here's Anthony Johnson on 2nd down and 2. He is very close to the 1st down.
You know, it's no big secret in the NFL. If you can get a ground game going, it only enhances your passing attack. And, you know, Jeff George has got to stay with this ground game and go ahead and take some losses, take some licks, but try to get it established. Otherwise, that Dolphin front will tee off on him much like San Diego did last week. So, you know, it's good to see him try to stay with their game plan here.
Well, it'll be 3rd and inches for Indianapolis, and they'll go to the double tight end set with Kerry Cash and Charles Arbuckle, and Rodney Culver and Maurice Carthon are in there for the Colts. So Indianapolis trailing 14-0 with 12:38 left in the first half. A crucial third down conversion here. And this is Culver, who apparently got the first down. So Indianapolis will have a first down from about their own 48-yard line.
Well, Culver's a short yardage guy. You know, he's 5'9", 225. He can get up underneath that line and help move it in a short yardage situation.
Well, Culver was the game's leading rusher and receiver in the first game for Indianapolis, but his productivity has tailed off in games of late for Indianapolis.
Well, offensive line tails off, everybody tails off.
That's right. 1st and 10. George to pass on first down, and this is Reggie Langhorne.
Now you look at this offense, the Colts, you've got, I think, one of the real bright spots in the NFL, and Jeff George. You got some good receivers, Langhorne, Brooks. Got some decent running backs. I mean, guys that can do it. The whole key is keeping that offensive line healthy. And like I said last week, Zephyrus Moss, Randy Dixon, and Ron Salt, the two guards and the left tackle, weren't even out there that much, and the left side didn't even dress, so it's a big plus having them back, and the offense is showing it.
Gain of 5 for Langhorne, 2nd down and 5. This is Anthony Johnson. Well, Jeff George got his first career win as a starter. It came against Miami a couple of weeks ago. He, of course, missed the first 3 games with strained ligaments in his thumb and has been effective when he has time to throw, but it's been a whole different story for Jeff George when the offensive line is not doing his job. He's proved he can get the job done if he's got time.
Well, he proved he was tough last year. Like I said, just don't make him prove it again.
He's got time this time and threw it behind Kerry Cash, so it'll be incomplete. That ball just not on the right side of Kerry Cash, the tight end in his 2nd year out of Texas.
Kerry Cash has become a very important part of this offense in these short yardage possession type catches. Here you see him breaking it off. They've got the back underneath. The linebackers jump him. Cash open. George just didn't throw the ball on the right side of the body.
So on 4th down and 5, we'll get our 3rd look at Ron Stark.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, Dan. You know, this punter is probably one of the greats of all time. He's always the defensive coordinator's best friend. You'll see them hang around a lot together.
I think I got it figured out why he's the NFL's top punter. He gets a lot of practice in game situations, but this time it's a fake. And Stark's pass is complete to number 39, Mike Pryor. So Ted Marchibroda.
Not only the defensive coordinator, maybe the offensive coordinator's best friend this week, too.
Scott Miller threw a great block for Mike Pryor, so Ron Stark won't punt it away and gets it off to Pryor for the first down, a gain of 17.
That's real important for those punters on a fake to go ahead and take a couple of steps to make those people release. Stark did a great job just faking it, getting the ball out there. Pryor does the rest after a great block.
Well, we've talked about what a great athlete Ron Stark is. He was finished 6th place in the decathlon in the NCAAs when he was a senior at Florida State, and that pass play to Pryor has put the Colts at the 30-yard line. 1st and 10. George misfiring intended for Langhorne.
Well, Jeff George, like I said, I think is a real talent on that last play. You could see him go back in the pocket and his feet never set. He was pumping those feet, worried about the rush getting to him, and that's why he threw a bad ball. Now, you know, you've got to have sound fundamentals as a quarterback. You've got to be able to stay with what basically brung you. Now you see his feet, just pump, 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 pump. You've got to go ahead and have confidence, plant those feet, and throw off the front foot. There he never did it.
Ron Stark is the Colts' 4th-string quarterback. He gets off more passes like that, maybe he'll move up on the depth chart. This is George on 2nd down, intercepted by Vesti Jackson. It was intended for Jesse Hester, but the nickelback Vesti Jackson picks up his 3rd interception of the season, and after the Colts get off a fake punt, which proved to be a first down, George throws the interception.
Well, one of the problems with Jeff sometimes is he throws the ball low. Here, a defensive lineman gets his hands up and deflects it. And, you know, he throws kind of like a 3/4 sidearm. There, I don't think we could see. On the right side of your screen, you'll see Jeff throw the ball, it is deflected there by Griggs, the outside linebacker. Now, if you throw it low, those guys are going to get a hand on it sooner or later. Best he picks it.
So Miami takes over 1st and 10 from their 31. Play action by Marino. And he'll wing it out to the right side. Mark Clayton unable to hang on to it.
Clancy almost had his first interception.
And Marino will go to work on 2nd down and 10. 14-0. It's been all Miami so far. Marino with a hot hand. Touchdown pass to Keith Jackson. And then Mark Hicks with the touchdown run on the first 2 series. Miami scoring, and Pete Stoyanovich attempted a 54-yard field goal on the 3rd series. And we stand at 14-0. 6 defensive backs for Indianapolis on 2nd and 10. And Marino's pass intended for Mark Clayton. It was tipped by Jason Belser, and apparently Clayton has the reception.
An amazing play. Clayton stuck with the ball. Great hand-eye coordination and concentration. It looks like a safety took a shot at the ball, bobbled it up, then a couple of other Colts came in there, but I think Clayton brought it in.
We will take another look at it, but first, let's see what the referees have to say. Well, you know how Don Shula feels about it. And it looks like the catch will stand.
The play was ruled a completion, 1st down.
They call it a completion, a gain of 13 for Mark Clayton.
We'll take another shot at it. Clayton coming across on a shallow crossing pattern. He's not really the primary. There you see him kind of just finding a spot. The safety bobbles it. Now Clayton right there, he almost has it.
Well, on the 1st
Great
down and 10 call, Bobby Humphrey picks up a couple, and for Clayton now 85 straight games with a reception, but I think he'll remember that one a little longer than
that guy's got
some of the past ones.
Amazing ability to make something easy look real hard.
Miami in the no huddle. 2nd down and 6. Bobby Humphrey, the lone setback. And he'll carry just to midfield for a gain of 2. Before John Bader, the free safety, comes up to make the hit.
On that play, Jeff Herrod, the middle linebacker, did a good job scraping out there. He's still in the game. They need him with that bad shoulder. We'll take another shot at this. You see the safety trying to make a play on the ball, bobbling it. Clayton kicks it around off his shoulder, pads his helmet. Here at the last second, he was able to bring it in.
3rd and 4, the ball at midfield. Marino will run for the 1st down, and more sliding his way to about the 37-yard line. So Marino, with a lot of room to roam, picks up the 1st down easily. And does this guy have that slide approach down or what?
Well, I don't think we'll mistake him for Deion Sanders stealing a base or anything, but you know, we talk about prime time. This guy is prime time, and that's what he does. He is one of the greats, and he'll do whatever he has to help his offense move.
Marino hook slide for the 1st down. Miami still in their own huddle. Bobby Humphrey with a carry, and Humphrey beginning to emerge as a ball carrier here in the 2nd quarter.
You know, there's a school of thought around the league that Hicks has been really the guy they hand the ball off to an awful lot the first half of the season, 1st, 2nd down, and a lot of folks are saying, hey, now that Shula has gotten into the meat of the schedule, we're going to see a lot more Bobby Humphrey. He's a workhorse. He likes to carry the ball 20, 25 times a game. I think we're going to start seeing an awful lot more of him.
Shula knows Humphrey can carry the football. In his first 2 seasons at Denver, he was a 1,000-yard rusher. 2nd and 7, Marino directing his offensive weapons from the shotgun, and he'll step back, fire, pass intended for Clayton, but this time Clayton can't hang on.
You know, we're seeing an awful lot of the no huddle here this afternoon, and you know, I don't think there's any small coincidence that they're going to play Buffalo next week, and they may want to counter with this style of offense to match up with Buffalo's offense that does the same thing. Now, you know, they pretty much had this game in control. They're up 14, and you know they really have gone away from what made them successful. I think they're just practicing it, trying to hone it down to a razor's edge.
Well, they have complete command of this game. They're up 14-0 with 7:18 left in the first half, and Marino again barking out audibles at the line of scrimmage. A flag on the play, intended for Clayton, incomplete.
False start. Offense prior to the snap. 5-yard penalty. Still third down.
So that will bring up 3rd and 12 for Don Shula's offense.
I think we're going to get a chance to look at Ulanake, the center, pop just a little bit early. And those centers, when they see a linebacker coming, like you see 54 Jeff Harrod coming up the gut, a lot of times they get a little antsy and pop out of there quick.
So on 3rd down and 12. Miami will try to convert the 3rd down. Miami just 1 of 9 on 3rd down conversion attempts last week against the New York Jets. And that's something that Don Shula talked about this week. They've got to get the 3rd down conversion percentage up. Marino going downfield. Intended for Tony Martin, number 89. Never had a chance. Well, suddenly the Miami offense looks a little bit confused.
Well, again, they trying to deploy that no-huddle offense. A lot of times the defense has an advantage. Here you see 51. Banks getting off on a great jump on the ball, beating his tackle out of his stance because he can, you know, he's got ears. He can hear when the snap is.
All right, our first look at Reggie Roby, who injured his knee on his first punt of the season. He's been on IR, and this is his first punt in 7 games. The fair catch by Mike Pryor, and we'll be back to the Hoosier Dome in Indianapolis. Ruptured an Achilles tendon in his first punt of this season. He tore knee cartilage while he attempted to make a tackle downfield. So Reggie Roby back with Miami as the punter. And here's Indianapolis, 1st down and 10, ball in its own 12. George will throw, and Jesse Hester never had a chance at that ball.
You know, one of the factors today we're going to watch is Marco Coleman, number 90, the rookie. Here he's working on the left tackle. See for Smalls. There he gets a little bang from the back Johnson. Now that's what you do when you become very successful. 5 sacks in the last 2 weeks. Hey, offensive coordinator is going to get somebody to help on you.
On the 2nd down and 10 call, this is Anthony Johnson, who has absolutely no room. Mark Sander, who got the start for John Offerdahl, made the stop. And as you can see, the first 3 possessions for Indianapolis, 7 plays and out, 3 and out, and then the interception by Jeff George.
For them to get back in the game, they've got to make this drive last longer than 3 plays.
George has time this time, but apparently confusion on the route run by Jesse Hester. He went outside on the hitch, and George had him scheduled for downfield.
Well, Ted Marchibroda, the coach, a lot of folks realize he came from Buffalo. He wants to implement that style of offense, a no huddle. The problem being, when you're young and you're just starting out and everyone's not on the same page each and every play. There we saw a receiver run a different route than what the quarterback thought he was going to run. Here Hester out here, lined up in man-on-man coverage. George says, hey, I like this matchup. I'm going to throw it to Hester. Hester doesn't realize the ball's coming to him on a fly pattern. He runs it out.
So here's Ron Stark again, punting from his own end zone. And Scott Miller from the 40, looking for room on the right side, and gets it up to the 44-yard line. A flag on the far side of the field after the punt of 49 yards by Stark. The official so excited he lost his hat when he threw the flag.
I don't know if that's where you're supposed to put your flag.
There's no foul on the play. The flag has been picked up.
All right, we'll be back to the Hoosier Dome in Indianapolis after these messages from your local station.
Getting off the road a little bit and hitting a few trees.
Dan Marino holding a discussion on the 40-yard line. Mark Clayton.
I think they have a problem with the spot here, Dan. I'm not real sure. Very seldom does Marino get into a jaw session with the officials, but Dan keeps pointing at a spot. I think what it is they called it an inadvertent foul. Look here.
Hantak, the referee.
There was a foul on the play. We had an illegal block on the return by the return team member. After the penalty, it is 1st and 10.
Enough said.
Well,
the officials at first called an inadvertent flag. Actually, it was not inadvertent.
well, they are earning their pay today on 1st and 10. Ball on the 28 now. 5:50 to go, first half. Mark Hicks with some big room on the right side across the 40 up to the 43-yard line for the first down for Miami. Scott Radisek on the stop for the Colts. And big story for the Colts defense. Steve Entman out with a strained knee ligament. He will not return on the same play. Dwayne Bickett suffered a right hamstring pull, and he does not look like he will return either.
Well, Bickett, I was watching him. He was trailing Keith Jackson, and Keith was running away from him. His hamstring more or less pulled, popped. They've got ice on it. And the older you get in this league, the more you start to crave ice.
All right, the pitch to Hicks, who was up to the 49-yard line, stopped by Chip Banks, the left outside linebacker. Tony Walker is the backup to Dwayne Bickett. So 2 first-round picks for the Colts out of commission. Actually 3 if you go with Quentin Coriat. He and Entman, this year's first-round picks. Dwayne Bickett was a first-rounder all the way back in 1985. But there is a look at Tony Walker. His 3rd year out of Southeast Missouri State.
Tony Saragosa, the nose tackle, seeing an awful lot of playing time here too.
2nd and 4 for the Dolphins. Hicks again. Fighting for the first down. He'll be close, but I do not think he got it. John Hand, the right end for the Colts, up to make the hit on Higgs, who has his 12th carry of the game. He's got 80 yards. Well, Mark Hicks, who picked up 905 yards rushing last year, leading the Dolphins, had 485 coming into this season, so he was on track to make a run at a 1,000-yard season.
Well, that is before the acquisition of Bobby Humphrey. And, you know, here's a terrific running back, but, you know, when you bring in a guy like Humphrey, all of a sudden, who's going to play? Because both are very, very good.
Double tight ends for the Dolphins on 3rd and 1, and Higgs gets the call. He'll pick up the first down. Tony Walker made the stop. Well, Mark Higgs had 201 yards in his first 2 games of the season, but he has really dropped off. And you mentioned the arrival of Bobby Humphrey, who wants to get his carries. That will take away from the number that Higgs gets each game.
Well, not only that, but their offensive line has done an awful a lot of different things. And talking with Don Shula, he says, you know, we do an awful good job on traps and counters, kind of deceptive running plays, but straight ahead running plays, we haven't done that well, except for today. First quarter, they really looked sharp doing that.
Well, there's a look at Humphrey on 1st and 10. The ball at the 46-yard line of the Colts. Marino rolling out to his right, throws to his left. This is Humphrey up to the 40-yard line for a gain of about 6 before he's brought down by Eugene Daniel.
You know, we're talking about the difference between Humphrey and Higgs. Higgs is a pure slashing back up inside, but Humphrey gives you that ability to do a lot of different things. He's big enough to block. He's fast. He's a great receiver. Here we'll see Marino underthrow it a little bit. Humphrey goes down on his knees, gets up, and still turns it into about a 5 or 6 yard gain. A lot of folks, it have been an incompletion.
Gain is 6 for Humphrey. 2nd down and 4. 2:24 to go in the first half. Miami up 14-0. Higgs, and he'll get a yardage. at best, and that'll bring up third down as we approach the 2-minute warning. The Miami rushing attack hasn't gone over 100 yards since the second game of the season, all the way back in September 20th. And we'll return to the Hoosier Dome in Indianapolis, right after home in East Brady, Pennsylvania. All that coming up at halftime. Miami and Indianapolis at the 2-minute warning. The Dolphins up 14-0. 3rd and 3. Ball at the 39. Marino to throw. He'll pick up the first down as the pass is complete to Fred Banks, who makes his first reception of the game. John Baylor on the coverage for the Colts.
Once again, Marino spreading it around. I think 5 or 6 guys have already caught balls here in the first half, and their offense has sputtered a little bit in the passing game. So, you know, once again, what we talked about early on, who are you going to throw it to?
Well, Fred Banks has been somewhat of the odd man out with all the arrivals, with Keith Jackson and Bobby Humphrey coming to Miami's offense. He's caught just 4 passes in his last 5 games coming into the game, but he picks up the first down for Miami. 1st and 10. Ball on the 30-yard line of the Colts. 1:55 to go in the first half. And this time it's Bobby Humphrey who hauls in Marino's pass. Jason Belser over there to make the tackle. So Miami moving the ball here.
Great job by Bobby Humphrey, not fumbling there. He has been known to fumble the ball every once in a while. Jason Belser puts the helmet up right on the ball. Didn't knock it out.
And 2nd down and 3. Gain is 7. Marino having all day to throw, complete to Keith Jackson all the way down to the 5-yard line, where Miami will have 1st and goal with 1:20 and running to go.
Well, Scott Radisek is a fine inside linebacker, but you can't put him one-on-one with Keith Jackson. I mean, it's a mismatch. Jackson's way too fast.
No huddle. The Colts on their heels the last few plays here, as Miami is just moving the ball up field at will, and this time Marino cocks and fires, intended for Jackson, incomplete.
Kind of interesting there. They lined Radisek back up on Jackson and blitzed him. Jason Belser had to take over the coverage and makes a good play. You see from the left of your screen, Radisek hitting Marino just before he releases the ball. Belser making a good play on that. They did a little in and out twist there, blitzing one guy and more or less setting Marino up for a pick.
Well, this game had all the makings of a blowout when the Dolphins drove up the field on their first 2 possessions of the game to make it 14-0. Then Indianapolis dug in, and now Miami has found its offensive rhythm here. 2nd and goal, the ball on the 6. Bobby Humphrey is the lone setback, and he'll get the carry inside the 5 all the way down to the 3-yard line. It'll be 3rd and goal. Radisek on the tackle for the Colts. We're under a minute to go here in the first half, and we'll be back with Miami threatening on 3rd and goal right after this. Okay, let's come out with Teddy. Yeah, let's come out with Ted Marchibroda. Ted Marchibroda's offense hasn't gotten anything going, but right now, Dan, it's his defense which has to dig in. Miami with a 3rd and goal, the ball on the 3-yard line. And you see the time left in the first half.
Well, the big problem for Rick Venturi, the defensive coordinator, is what are they going to do? They can run and pass in this situation. They've got the 4 wide receiver offense set up and Bobby Humphrey in the backfield. If you try to double too many guys outside, they'll run a gut play on you.
Well, here's Marino out of the shotgun, 4 wideouts on 3rd and 3. Marino cocks and fires, and it is complete. Touchdown, Fred Banks. So with 4 wideouts, Marino picks out Fred Banks for the touchdown, and the Dolphins with a chance to go up 21-0 at halftime.
Well, they blitz the middle linebacker, bring a corner off the edge. Hey, they just run a quick slant, easy throw.
I don't think the Colts expected 4 wideouts on 3rd and goal at the 3-yard line. Usually they might bring in Keith Jackson and Greg Beatty in a double tight end situation, but I think the Colts were entirely confused on that play. This is Pete Stoyanovich to add point number 21 for the Dolphins, and with 50 seconds to go in the first half, Miami's offense is back on track. They lead it 21-0. Another look at the touchdown.
We'll take a look here. We'll see Jeff Herrod, 54, blitzing. They're bringing a corner off. They're blitzing 2 guys. That means you have 2 less guys to cover in the middle. Marino runs, throws a real quick slant pattern there to Banks. Makes it easy.
2 touchdown passes for Dan Marino on the day so far, bringing his season total to 17. This sign has just made its first appearance here in the Hoosier Dome, and I think that sums it up as best as any sign we've seen here. In fact, it's probably the only sign we see here in the Hoosier Dome.
Frustration can be pain. So in a roundabout way, they, you know, and that's the problem with the
race at 4-4. But with last week's 26-0 loss to the Chargers, which brought up memories of last year's 1-15 season, and this performance so far, I think the last thing Ted Marchibroda is thinking about is a playoff berth. This is Clarence Verdant who's going to bring it out. And that'll give you an indication of his speed as he takes the long route before he's pushed out of bounds at the 24. So Clarence Verdant, who had a key punt return for a touchdown in the first meeting between these 2 clubs, brings out some of the fans here at the Hoosier Dome who have had not a lot to cheer about. Another reminder, Bob Costas, O.J. Simpson, and your old coach Buddy Ryan, Dan, back in the NFL halftime studios.
Buddy Ryan on loan from God, it looks like here, back talking football.
Your buddy and ours. 1st and 10, 43 seconds left in the first half. George's pass complete to Kerry Cash, the tight end. Clock running, less than 30 seconds to go now as George hurries them up to the line, maybe trying to get some sort of offensive production before they head to the locker room. 2nd down and 2. George will run it out for the first down, where he runs smack into David Griggs. And now the ball is loose. And Vesti Jackson has it for Miami.
Well,
how about that for a weird one?
Well, Miami went with a 3-man rush. George busted out, tried to get it on his own. Somebody drills him. The ball comes out, and then they start this game of shuffling it around.
David Griggs with a hit here, I believe, Dan.
Now, we heard this up in the booth pretty loud. You see him just melting Jeff George, the quarterback. Now, I don't know how much Ted Marchibroda wants to see his quarterback scrambling and not getting down when he sees somebody coming up to hit him. You lose quarterback pretty quick like that, folks.
I think we need a wide angle to figure this one out.
Well, it was Leaford Hobley was the guy that wrecked Jeff George's plans of getting to the first down mark.
Hobley was the Dolphin who made the hit, and that has Jeff George woozy again. And Miami with 1st and 10. They may have a chance to do something here. 4 seconds left. Marino on the run to his right. He'll let it fly downfield. The ball is tipped. It is caught by Miami, but time has run out on the Dolphins.
Well, that only looked good on the stat sheet because it really didn't matter here.
Fred Banks caught it. The time runs out on Miami, and they'll take a 21-0 lead to the locker room as the boos cascade down the Hoosier Dome stands here. Here's another look.
Well, defensive backs are taught to get high and knock the ball down, where the offensive guy got in front of him, tipped it to a teammate.
That was Mark Duper with a reception, but it is too late as Miami payback time here at the Hoosier Dome for. And we welcome you back to the Hoosier Dome in Indianapolis. The first sellout crowd in a year here at the Hoosier Dome, and it has been nothing to cheer about for the Indianapolis Colts. Miami up 21-0. A couple of weeks ago, the Colts handed the Dolphins their very first loss of the season, and the Dolphins have seemed intent on somewhat of a payback here. And Miami will kick it off. Stoyanovich Back deep is Verdun and Ashley Ambrose, and Verdun will bring it out. Across the 15 before he is pushed out of bounds. So Indianapolis will try to get something going offensively, Dan, and no secret there, the Keystone halftime stats indicate a big yardage favorably for Miami.
Well, Miami has 173 yards on first down alone. Now you see the Colts, they've only been able to gain 75 the entire first half, so that tells you how dominant Miami has been on both sides of the ball.
Well, this will give you another indication of how anemic the Colts rushing attack has been. Bill Brooks, the wide receiver, is the leading Colts rusher with 8 yards on 1 carry. Here is Anthony Johnson across the 30-yard line, and that'll be the best run of the day for the Colts. As Johnson picks up the first down, he has been almost non-existent in the first half. Lifford Hobley forced him out of bounds.
Well, that was a great call by March Broda and Jeff George on the offensive side. They give it like a pass rush look. Those defensive linemen are flying up the field. You can just turn them one way or the other. You can hit a seam. There, Johnson rips them pretty good.
Gain of 18 yards for Johnson, the longest of the season for him. The pass complete to Bill Brooks, and all of a sudden, Indianapolis has come out of the locker room like they want to get back into this ball game.
Well, we talked about those first down stats are so important in this game. Indy has been giving up an awful lot. Well, they need to gain a lot on first down. First half, they didn't even quite make 4 yards an attempt on first down. All of a sudden, they've had 2 big first downs to get them going.
2nd and 3, the pitch to Johnson, and he'll pick up another first down. Ball is jarred loose. Miami thinks they have it. And the officials discussing it.
Well, Jason Belzer, the quarterback, comes up, puts his helmet again right on the ball.
Well,
excuse me, it's Lifford Hobley, number 29. You'll see him right here, putting his shoulder right down on the ball. It looks like he was down.
well, it'll be Miami's football.
You know, we talked with Don Shula yesterday about, you know, the fact that the replay system is out of the league. There, he would not have the ball if they had it, in fact.
TJ Turner recovered the fumble for Miami, so Indianapolis comes right out of the locker room. Looks like they had something together offensively, and they fumble the football away, and Miami is in business at the Colt 46. Hicks will get maybe a yard on the right side. Scott Radisek came up to make the hit.
You know, it's kind of odd how, you know, all of a sudden, after being basically comatose for a half, the offense comes out, has 2 or 3 real good plays. All the Colts were up on the sideline getting into the game.
And that
now they fumble and everybody deflated. And of course, here is the last remaining stud out there on the defense. Jeff Harrod has hurt that shoulder again.
Jeff Harrod injured his left shoulder diving for an interception versus San Diego last Sunday. It was very doubtful as of yesterday whether he would even play, and he is out of the ball game. So Harrod, Entman, Bickett out, Coriat out, and here is Marino's pass complete to Higgs on the 2nd down and 10. A gain of about 5 yards. So that Indianapolis Colts defense is really operating completely outmanned as far as their first unit goes.
Well, it is, and it's a good thing they've got a little bit of depth there. They, you know, we talk about their offensive line, no depth at all. Depth of a waiting pool, but the defense has a little bit more depth. You're going to see Stephen Grant. He'll come in and help out a little bit. Scott Radisek already seeing an awful lot of action. For them to get back in the game, they need to get the ball back for their offense.
3rd and 6 for Miami. The quick route. A flag on the play. This is number 89, Tony Martin, all the way down at the 5-yard line, but a flag in the Miami offensive backfield. And that may bring it back.
Well, even if it does bring it back, I think the folks at home can see why Tony Martin is getting a lot more action. This guy's exciting. The call is offensive interference.
And that will bring it back.
It's pretty obvious what it was. It was a screen play here. Watch out here. The outside guy comes under. 83 Clayton is trying to screen his man off. Basically the same thing as a pick in basketball.
On the offense, number 83, contact prior to the receiver catching the ball. 10-yard penalty, 3rd down.
You know, Minnesota used to do that an awful lot against us back when I was with the Bears, and it's amazing how many times people can get away with that play. There, Clayton made it look a little bit too obvious. If you know what you're doing, you can just run it that way and not look so obvious. But there, Clayton will not receive an Academy Award nomination for that one.
And on 3rd down and 15, Miami in the 4-wide receiver set. The big gainer by Martin is nullified. The ball at the 49 now. Miami in its own territory, and Dan Marino will take a rare seat. So the Hoosier crowd with something to cheer about as Chip Banks sacked Dan Marino. Well, Banks leads the team with 7 sacks now.
Well, that was basically a coverage sack. And, you know, Marino with that great release, a lot of times he'll find his guy. You'll see Humphreys come out to the right of the screen. Humphreys was unable to get open. That's who Marino wanted to find. By then, Banks had him down.
Reggie Roby to punt on 4th and 20. As Clarence Verdun back. And Roby sends Verdun back to the 11. He'll bring it out. Has some room across the 20-yard line. He'll go out of bounds at about the 24-yard line. So Indianapolis, which fumbled away on last series, will take over again, trailing 21. Defense for Indianapolis.
I sure hope it's just a strain. I can't understand. There must be industrial strength crutches. Carrying a big man. I hope he's fine.
Well, the Colts fumbled on their last series as they came out and put something together offensively, and this time Anthony Johnson comes out and gets some pretty good yardage. Well, Dan Marino has a couple of touchdown passes. Jeff George hasn't been able to get anything going, has the interception, and he is just 6 of 13 for 35 yards.
Well, kind of a skewed look there. George has had some time. He has really not thrown the ball well today.
2nd and 6, complete to Bill Brooks. And depending on where they spot it, it should be another 1st down for Indianapolis. George getting time to throw, and we talked with Jeff George yesterday. Some of the receivers have had to shorten their routes, and George has needed to get the ball off a little sooner than usual, and he's always been harassed in his career here in Indianapolis, but he's able to get it off there.
Well, that's the style of offense they have to go to. 5-step drop, let her go.
There's another one, and this is Bill Brooks again. That'll be a gain of about 7 across to the 42-yard line. So the Colts came out here in the 2nd half and have established themselves offensively.
Well, a lot of folks at home say, well, why don't they do this every down? Well, you can't go with just a real big play of these timing patterns. Safeties and linebackers will sniff them out and pick those.
Bill Brooks, the workhorse of the Colts offense the last 3 plays, the 2nd all-time leading receiver for the Colts on the all-time reception list behind only Raymond Berry.
He led the offense in rushing 1st half, did he not?
He did, with 1 carry. On 2nd and 3, George to throw, another quick pattern. And this time it's Reggie Langhorne who picks up another 1st down for the Colts. So you can say that Miami's laying off a bit, letting Jeff George establish the passes on short routes, but they are functioning now.
Well, I think right now you're seeing Ted Marchibroda put a little bit more input in. I think the first part of the game, Jeff George is calling the shots, trying to stretch the offense down the field. Now Marchibroda's calling those short pops.
George pass on 1st and 10 complete. Kerry Cash, a gain of about 7.
You know, this all works good and fine until you get down close inside that red zone. That zone shrinks down. There's a lot of bodies that try to throw these little dinks in there.
Hurry up offense for the Colts. Making the gain of 6 for Cash. 2nd down and 4. Ball at Miami's 40. George back to fire again. Flag on the play, intended for Bill Brooks. Well, the Colts making it not a secret what they intend to do in the second half, but they get a holding call there. And it's on the left tackle.
Offense number 73, 10-yard penalty. Repeat the down. Second down.
Zephyrus Moss.
Well, we'll get a shot of it right here. Zephyrus was just basically ran by like a turnstile. He had to just choke Marco Coleman down to keep him from killing Jeff George.
Don't they show those kinds of plays to the referees when they go to school in the offseason?
No, you show them to rookies and say, don't do this.
2nd down and 14. Pushes the Colts back 10 yards, and George flips it out to Anthony Johnson. He gets back maybe to the line of scrimmage there. That'll bring up about 3rd down.
Well, that's the first time we've really called Brian Cox's name in a while. He leads the league with 10 sacks. The offensive line for the Colts have been doing a pretty good job keeping him off of their quarterback.
Well, ball at 39. It's actually 3rd down and 13. George to go to the air again. Flushed out. And he'll pick up some good yardage around the left side. The officials have spotted it at the 36. Very close to a 1st down for Jeff George. In fact, they've indicated that it is a 1st down. So Jeff George scrambling on the 3rd down conversion and picking it up.
Here, Jeff George getting a little heat. They run a little stunt on the side. He busts through. He says, hey, I'm going to try to get to the 1st down marker, but I don't want another shot like I took at the end of the half.
Jeff
He gets
George,
out of bounds.
born in Indianapolis. Went to high school at Central High School here in the Indianapolis area. Led his high school team to 2 straight state titles, and now is trying to lead the Colts back in this game. They trail it 21-0, but Indianapolis on the move. George going downfield, underthrown, intercepted by Troy Vincent. And he is on the return up across the 30, brought down at the 35-yard line. So Jeff George, right when you think things are fixed, they get broken up again.
Once again, the little dinks and pops, all those things work very well. But when Jeff tried to stretch that field and force the ball down the field, big trouble lurking. Obviously, we're watching Brooks run that streak pattern. George underthrows him. It's a gift. But ultimately, you've got to think that you've got to play patient football against a defense like the Dolphins. They've got some good DBs. They can pick the ball off. But anytime he's went down the field, he's gotten into trouble today.
First career interception for Troy Vincent. And Miami back in business. Ball at the 36. Marino to throw on 1st down. Has all day. Complete to Hicks, who is across the 46. He is close to a 1st down. Brought down by Chip Banks. So Jeff George with his 2nd interception of the day, and this one couldn't have come at a worse time.
Well, for the first time all afternoon, he's got his guys rallied. They're going down the field. He scrambles for a 1st down. Really getting in good shape to make a scoring attempt, and then he gets a little greedy, goes down the field. And you can see there that Jeff George says, hey, patience. It's the better part of virtue. You've got to have it in this game as a quarterback. You can't be cutting off too big a piece to chew at any one time.
And with 7 minutes left in the 3rd quarter, a touchdown would have put the Colts right back in the ball game with enough time. But now Miami can grind out some time here as Hicks picks up a couple of yards to about the 49-yard line before John Hand runs him down.
You know, it seems like every time the Dolphins have to get something going, they go back with that ground game today, and that's something I think you're going to see a lot more from the Dolphins the remainder of the season. You know, I think they got a little bit giddy with all the receivers, you know, Pro Bowl guys like Jax, Clayton, Duper, all those guys. When it gets right down to it, to get in the playoffs in December, you've got to be able to run the ball.
Gain of 2 for Hicks, who seems to be on his way to a 100-yard rushing game. He's got 86 yards. Marino on the pass to the fullback, Tony Page. Jeff Herod is back in the Colt lineup. He was in on the tackle along with Eugene Daniel. So Herod with that banged up left shoulder.
Well, you know, you talk about gutsy. This guy here led the team for the last 3 years as a linebacker, making tackles everywhere. And, you know, he's got the bad shoulder. And, you know, he didn't have to play today. They're down 21-0. He doesn't have anything to prove to anybody. But this guy is the ringleader. He's out there, and he's making an impact in this game.
You can see what he's done the last 3 seasons. Led Indianapolis in tackles. And on 3rd and 3, the ball at the 46. This time Humphrey gets the quick handoff from Marino, and he'll be well short of the first down at the 45-yard line. And that'll bring out the punting unit for Miami. Reggie Roby making another appearance for the Dolphins.
Well, Chip Banks did a great job of stopping the long trap on that last play, really clogging it up in the backfield. And, you know, Banks, every once in a while, play here, play there, he still shows that remarkable form that made him a first-round pick and an impact player in this league for a lot of years.
We'll mention that those leg injuries that Reggie Roby has suffered as of late are to his non-kicking leg, but when a punter has to plant, it does make a difference.
Well, have you seen his legs? That's not a plant, that's a tree. It's a tree-sized leg, not a plant leg.
Reggie Roby led the entire NFL in punting last year, and this time he'll hang one high for Mike Pryor, who's calling for the fair catch at the Colt 15, where Indianapolis will put it in play when we come back. It's been all Miami so far. They're up 21-0. That his offense is firing, but on those 2 possessions, a fumble and then a costly interception thrown by Jeff George a couple of moments ago.
Well, I think if you look at it, you know, this Colt team has the personnel to move the ball, but you can't make mistakes. March Butter said yesterday, we're not going to kill you, we'll just claw you to death. Well, today, the claws are falling out because they're fumbling the ball and throwing interceptions. 2
interceptions on the day for George, and he'll start the Colts out again at the 15. Anthony Johnson on the carry for the Colts. T.J. Turner on the stop for Miami. In fact, the last 3 possessions for Indianapolis, fumble, interception. 3 yards for Johnson on the carry. 2nd down and 7. George swings it out to Johnson, who's across the 20, barreling up across the 25-yard line. Well, here where he will have a first down. Jeff Cross tripped him up.
You know, Anthony Johnson's not really a household name around the league, but this kid out of Notre Dame, I mean, last year, about halfway through the season, I think he was leading the league in receptions. Very, very talented player, can do an awful lot of things.
He's also an Indianapolis native like Jeff George, who fires over the middle, intended for Reggie Langhorne, who tried to leap and grab it but couldn't come up with it. J.B. Brown on the coverage. Colts down 21-0. Jeff George. Costly interception in the last series. Stalled a good drive for Indianapolis. Second down and 10. This pass knocked down, intended for Johnson, knocked down by Brian Cox. Haven't called his number a lot today, but Cox leads the NFL with 10 sacks, and he was able to get in on the pass defense for Miami that time.
Well, again, you know, you think of Brian Cox, you think of a guy that rushes a quarterback every down, but he still has that kind of speed where you can put him out in space. He can cover in a zone, get on people, jump off people, make plays like that.
3rd and 10 for Indianapolis. George's pass complete to Langhorne for the first down at the 45-yard line. J.B. Brown tackled him. George had a lot of time and even a lot of room on the right side, but elected to hit Langhorne, the 8th-year man who spent 7 years with Cleveland.
Now, here's Langhorne, a guy, you know, he was a big name in Cleveland. Here in Indy, he's just now getting his feet wet with his Colt offense. George able to get out of the pocket, buy a little time, and flicking the ball on a frozen rope.
3rd down converted for the Colts. Anthony Johnson on the ground. Maybe a yard. That'll bring up 2nd down. Ted Marchibroda. In his 30th NFL season, his first with the Indianapolis Colts. Watching Jeff George fire another completion. This time it is Jesse Hester for the first down. So Indianapolis on the move again. Let's see if they can hang on to it this time.
Well, you know, Ted Marchibroda has worked wonders with a lot of great quarterbacks. Burt Jones in Baltimore, of course, Jim Kelly up in Buffalo. You know, he was a quarterback coach in Chicago in '81, but the only problem was we really didn't have a quarterback. It's like being water commissioner in the desert. Didn't really have much to work with. Now you can see he's been effective helping Jeff George.
First catch of the game for Hester. Johnson on the ground. Miami defense strings him out. He'll get to the 40-yard line for about a gain of 3. David Griggs, Troy Vincent in there for Miami.
Well, Jeff George is still at the controls. He's calling the plays at the line, but what happened was Marchibroda basically said, hey, look, you're trying for too much at any one time. Shorten the patterns, run comebacks, quick pops. We're a lot better team when we do that.
2nd and 7. George has time out of the hands of Charles Arbuckle, the tight end. And maybe the free agent signee out of UCLA, maybe he should have hung on to that ball.
Well, something else here in the second half is Jeff George, I think, is getting real good protection from that line. Here you'll see his 2 tackles running Cox and Marco Coleman past him. He gets a chance to step up and fire the ball. So he is being able to stand up a little bit longer in the pocket.
Well, Jeff George had some steam on that ball to Arbuckle. On 3rd down, he'll take the sack. Jeff Cross.
Well, when you see a quarterback having to be flushed up, one of those big guys in the middle is finally going to break loose. Here you saw Jeff Cross.
His 2nd sack of the game.
Yeah. You'll see that Marco Coleman, see, he's going around the back door. They're drawing a lot of attention. That pocket eventually caves in. Jeff has no place to go.
Well, it took Cross 8 games to pick up his first sack of the season. He's got 2 today. He's led Miami in sacks the last 3 years. 4th down and 14. Ron Stark. Back to punt. Scott Miller. Jarvis Williams. Williams calls for the fair catch at about the 9-yard line. So another Colt drive sputters, and with 37 seconds left in the 3rd quarter, Miami.
Fan, but I think this right here may be more depressing, seeing the #1 pick in the draft hobbled.
The number 2 pick, Quentin Coriat, a broken wrist. He was out a couple of weeks ago in the first game with Miami, and now the Dolphins 1st and 10, ball on the 10, with 37 seconds left in the 3rd quarter. The ball to Mark Hicks, who is approaching the 100-yard plateau today. Scott Radisick of Indianapolis makes the stop on him.
You know, you talk about the Miami offensive ball mix, where who they're throwing the ball to, who's going to get the ball to run with it. Hey, I think anyone that sees the Dolphins rush for 100 yards will see the Dolphins win the game, because I think their offense is predicated on the fact they have to be able to have balance.
The end of the 3rd quarter here at the Hoosier Dome. Done a lot of damage around the NFL in his 10 years. He's already got 2 touchdown passes today against the Colts, and he has had his best days against the Colts. Now 34 career touchdown passes for Dan Marino. The 2 today. 1 to Keith Jackson and 1 to Fred Banks. This is Mark Hicks. Brought down by Tony Walker. Well, coming up in the second half of our doubleheader here on NBC, Pittsburgh and Buffalo at Rich Stadium. The Steelers, the sole leaders of the AFC Central. The Buffalo Bills, who, if Miami wins this game, will trail the Dolphins by just a half game for the lead in the AFC East. At Rich Stadium, who do you like in that one, Ben?
Got to go with the homeboys, but Pittsburgh could steal a victory.
I think the Steelers under Cowher are for real. Bobby Humphrey in on a 3rd down and 2 situation for the Dolphins. Ball on the 18. Humphrey will pick up the 1st down. So with 14:10 to go in the game, the Colts are running out of opportunities. They look like a different team in the second half, but the fumble interceptions on 3 straight possessions really hurt. taking charge at the line of scrimmage once again. He admitted he missed some throws in last week's loss to the Jets, but he has been red hot here today. This is Bobby Humphrey loose across the 40 to the 42-yard line. So as Hicks approaches the 100-yard mark, Bobby Humphrey begins to rack up some yards on the ground.
Well, due to the injury to Entman, they got Clancy, number 76, playing in there at his defensive tackle position. You can see he's a pass rusher, real tall, rangy guy. He gets initially double, and then they fan off, go for the middle linebacker rod. They create a big seam there. Hey, I think I could have had you run through there for at least the first, Danny.
Well, Bobby Humphrey, 20 yards on the run. Marino flushed out. Keith Jackson one-handed it, tried to juggle it in, but wasn't able to come up with a catch. Let's step aside, go to our New York studios, and Bob Costas. So the Cleveland Browns up 17-0.
You know, you talk about Houston, a lot of talent. I don't know if they ever play together. You could beat them, but they haven't played together.
A game in the Astrodome as the Browns make the third game of their run of their third game road trip. This is Humphrey again getting the call and again getting the first down for Miami. So without Hampton on that defensive line.
Well, not only that, but the fact that, you know, their middle linebacker, Jeff Rod, he's beat up. Quentin Coryatt. You know, that's an awful lot of talent to take away from any one defense. And, of course, Dwayne Bickett, the fine right side linebacker. I mean, Rick Venturi there, the defensive coordinator, he's got to feel like somebody's slapping him, and there's nothing he can do about it because he doesn't have any way to stop it.
There's a guy that's seen it all. 11 seasons with the Indianapolis Colts. He was the head coach in the final 11 games last year, and a tough 1-15 campaign to take over. And Rick Venturi trying to stop Miami today. Keith Jackson comes up with a Dan Marino pass inside the 12-minute mark here. Jason Belser on the stop for Indianapolis. Well, we had a chance to talk with Keith Jackson yesterday as well about the changes being made at quarterback in Philadelphia, where the Eagles have elected to go with Jim McMahon. And
well, he said, I tried to call Randall a couple of times, and he says, everybody's saying, what's wrong with Randall? He says, well, come on. I'm not there. They double the outside guys. Nobody can get open. Is it the quarterback's fault?
Apparently, Keith Jackson does not think so. He thinks Randall's options have lessened significantly without him in the lineup. Marino throwing. Nice catch by Mark Clayton. We haven't called his number a lot today, but the hometown Clayton, born here in Indianapolis, makes the reception.
It's kind of odd. Mark Clayton was making a little noise this week. I'm not involved enough. That's only his second catch for the day. But traditionally, this guy is not a big factor against the Colts. I think in the last 7 games, he's only caught 12 balls, which is way below what he would normally average.
Well, he has just 1 touchdown pass this season. And Clayton, of course, involved in the most prolific NFL passing catching combo ever with Marino. That's not the kind of statistic that you'd expect from Clayton.
Well, he said, hey, I'm glad for Keith Jackson. Double him, I'll be single.
Second down. And this is Bobby Humphrey across the 20 on the 3rd down and 3 call before he's dragged down by Belser. So Miami looking for more deep inside the Colts territory. They'll spot it at about the 18.
Well, you talk about this offense. You've got those 2 wideouts, the Mark brothers. You got Jackson, and then, of course, Humphrey. Here they had Jeff Rod in a tailgate position trying to cover him. Humphrey just ran away from him. Marino got him the ball. Big play.
Bobby Humphrey in his 4th year out of Alabama. Came into the game with a 5.3 rushing average, and that will jump today. He's been effective on the ground. 1st and 10, Miami at the 18-yard line of the Colts, up 21-0. And it's Humphrey again. 25 catches for Bobby Humphrey. That is his single season high he came into this ball game with. But the big question, of course, in Miami was, will Bobby Humphrey, along with Mark Hicks, help out more significantly on the ground?
Well, you know, he's a big, strong back, and I really believe that if they implemented him much like the Broncos did when he was having his big seasons there, it would only enhance his offense, because he is a gifted running back. Not only catching the ball, but I would have to think you got to give it to him 18, 20 times a game.
2nd and 6. Marino looking wide open is Humphrey inside the 5, all the way down to the 1-yard line, and Miami poised to put it in the end zone again. They're up 21-0, and this could really put it out of hand for the Colts.
Well, once again, they've got Humphrey out in a pattern, and he's being isolated on by the middle linebacker, Jeff Farad. You see 54 in the middle of your screen. He's got Humphrey. He's on the inside. Well, he doesn't have the chance to close on Humphrey fast enough to stop the catch.
The ball inside the 2-yard line. Miami 1st and goal. Humphrey racking up the yardage by air as well as by ground.
And another thing, you know, Harad's got that bad shoulder. A lot of times you want to get up and bang on those guys. He can't.
190.
Mark Hicks over the top, can't get in. That'll bring up 2nd and goal. Higgs already has a touchdown earlier today, which made it 14-0. Higgs needed himself a pole vault here to get over the line.
Well, Higgs is about 5'8". Let's see how high he gets up off the ground here. That's it. He basically tried a little bit too early. He had his knees get popped, and it turned him over. But, you know, this guy, you know, and again, Humphrey's great back. This guy here can carry the mail with the best of them.
Well, maybe a yard for Higgs. 2nd and goal. And this is Tony Page. Touchdown, Miami.
Well, that was a beautifully designed play. It was an inside fake pitch gut trap to the fullback, Tony Page, who usually would be utilized as a blocker down close to the end zone.
I believe
Excellent
that's only
play.
his 6th carry all year for Tony Page.
He's over there offset. You'll see him. They act like they're going to hand it back here. Marino does a full pivot, hands it to Page, who wades through untouched.
His 1st carry all game long. It really surprised the Colts.
They run like a trap play on the nose with the tight end in motion. No one was even standing to even try to throw a hand out to stop him.
Pete Stoyanovich pounds it through the uprights, and that makes it Miami 28, Indianapolis nothing. 7:06 left here to go from the Hoosier Dome.
He's out now.
Oh, God.
It's pathetic.
Uncertain whether he'll return. I'm going to keep these over here for a sec. Keep these over here, thanks.
Whoa. Page. Let's see who they put in.
Zip.
Yeah. Well, the Colts are on offense, but either way, it's not pretty. They're going to play goal line defense.
Jack Trudeau's going to come in. Jack. That was his 1st carry of the game, 6 all season for the big 5'11", 235-pounder out of Virginia Tech.
He didn't hardly use any of that weight on that one. It was untouched, and I tell you what, it was a beautifully designed play.
And a beautiful drive for Miami. 13 plays, 90 yards, used up 8:31 on the clock, and there's 7:06 to play now as Stoyanovich will kick off to Verdun and Ashley Ambrose. And here's a chance to see the exciting Clarence Verdun again across the 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. Knocked out of bounds at the 45. And we'll be right back. Miami up 28-0 on Indianapolis. I love this guy. We got to get it on.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
New QB.
Yeah, new QB, boys. Jack Truth or Dare Doe is in the game. Let's get little Clarence out there. He's out there on the offensive set. Yeah.
Page thing to death.
Seventh-year man out of Illinois has taken over the Indianapolis offense for Jeff George, and it's been another disappointing afternoon for George. 15 of 26, 113 yards, but those 2 interceptions came at costly times. Trudeau on his first series hands off to Ken Clark, the backup running back, third-year man out of Nebraska. Lifford Hobley on the stop. So Indianapolis down 28-0. Most likely will fall to 4-5 on the season. And the Miami Dolphins have really gotten things back on track here today at the Hoosier Dome after losing 2 straight. Kerry Cash with the reception just across midfield for Trudeau.
Well, a couple of the problems that Miami had was their defense wasn't stopping anybody, where they've done a great job of stopping the Colts today, or the Colts have helped by stopping themselves.
Well, a moment ago we mentioned how Jim McMahon has gotten the start for Randall Cunningham in Philadelphia as Trudeau hands off. Warren Moon has been pulled in the game in the Astrodome with the Cleveland Browns up 17-7. Cody Carlson has taken over and has a touchdown pass to Webster Slaughter in that one.
Look like they're going to try to measure here. 4th and short, possibly be going for it. They need to, down.
I would imagine so.
Got to.
Have to.
And again, we talk about this Colt offense and how at times it was able to move the ball, but ultimately it's self-destructed. And that's one of the marks that you see on a good football team is they don't self-destruct. They make the other team beat them. Well, today, Colts basically gave it to the Dolphins.
Well, 4th and short. And the short yardage unit for Indianapolis comes out. Jack Trudeau held out all training camp, this past training camp before the season started, as the backup to Jeff George, trying to get his team a first down here. This is Rodney Culver fighting for the first down, and he may not have got it.
I don't believe they made it, and he looks at least a half a yard short here.
David Griggs came up to stop Culver. And it appears the Dolphins will take over with 5:30 to go.
Good job on that right side, Marco Coleman. Doing a good job stringing the play out, making some contact there.
Disappointment for Ted Marchibroda, trying to get his offense a first down on 4th and a foot. 5.5 minutes to go, trying to get something going, but nothing there. Miami leads it big. 5.5 minutes to go from the Hoosier Dome. Leaving in droves here with their team down 28-0. Mark Hicks banging it out outside across the 40 for the first down with Miami, and I believe that puts Mark Hicks over the 100-yard mark for the 5th time in his career.
Well, the Dolphins have made it look easy today.
And the new quarterback for Miami, Scott Mitchell, taking over for Dan Marino. James Saxon has also joined the Miami backfield. Mitchell, his first NFL season, the All-American out of Utah, who played in the World League with the Orlando Thunder this past summer. And this is Bernie Parmalee for first down yardage. Finally brought down by Stephen Grant. So the rookie out of Ball State, Parmalee, joining in the rushing fun for the Dolphins.
Boy, it's a sad thing, you know. You think that the Colts at 4-4, they've got a chance to get back into the division race. They beat the Dolphins. They go to 5-0. I mean, it's unbelievable how high their hopes were coming into this game, and then right off the bat, you lose a couple of your big guns. The team kind of crumbles around it.
Kind of destroys the morale of the Indianapolis fans who watched today. It was the first sellout crowd in a year, 60,000 strong. Parmalee gets the carry. He'll get down to the 8-yard line, but right when you think the Colts have a chance to turn it around at 4-4, they see their #1 draft pick Steve Entman get injured, and it just began unraveling right from the outset today. And a man injured for Miami. And we'll come back and check out the Dolphin injury in just a moment. Miami up 20. Colts, look at that shot. Let's get in on that. Keep that there.
Yeah.
That's.
Yeah.
Jeez, I think the submarine was.
The last two first down plays to move your average up.
I like that shot. If we can come back to that after we clean up the injury with Sims here, apparently he's all right. Okay. Okay. Are you gonna is that taped? That's on tape? Okay. Okay, great. All right. Oh, okay. Keith Sims. Come out and we'll see Keith Sims. We'll establish he's okay. Okay. Let's see. 24-3 Philly rolling. 34-3 Dallas. Over Detroit.
Plus Minnesota.
31-7 New Orleans over the Pats. 17-7 Cleveland over Houston. 35-7 Minnesota over Tampa Bay. And 13-7 Giants over the Pack. Okay. Okay. Gotcha. Well, Keith Sims, number 69, the big left guard for Miami, apparently all right after being shaken up on that play. Second down and 4 now for Miami. Scott Mitchell at quarterback for the Dolphins. And Bernie Parmalee fighting his way across the left side. Maybe he got down to the 6-yard line. And Colts had high hopes as they came into this game, the rematch with the Dolphins, hoping to submerge Miami, but that has not been the case at all this afternoon.
Read all about it.
In the meantime, Don Shula gets his team back on track, and we're going to take a look at their schedule. They got Buffalo on Monday night, and that will be the true test of this Dolphins team as they go to 7-2 this afternoon. First and goal for Miami. And Parmalee with a call again, the rookie out of Ball State.
Showing some good patience there.
Well, Miami's second half of the schedule much tougher than its first half. As mentioned, it'll be the true essence. We'll discover the true essence of this team in the next month. Buffalo on Monday night, Houston. Then they travel to New Orleans and San Francisco before hosting the Raiders and the Jets.
They always have a lot of problems with the Jets, too. I tell you what, I think that we saw the Dolphins kind of get back on track today. The last couple of weeks, they've kind of gotten off. They're back now. Well,
they're back on track, leading the Indianapolis Colts 28-0. They've made it look easy today, and we'll be back at the 2-minute warning here in Indianapolis. 6 yards, 454. Are we going to do this coming right out? Victor, or are you going to tell us when? What's this? Oh, possession? Okay. Not bad. I mean, you know, the Colts is self-destructive. Thanks. Marino, God's most coveted creation. Yeah, I don't like that sign. Let's, there you go, Dougie. After what? What are we doing? What are we doing, guys? What are we doing? Okay. Well, Dan Hampton, I know you were popular in Chicago during your playing days, but were you as popular as Dan Marino is here in Miami or Indianapolis? They love him everywhere he goes.
I know. He's got the color-coordinated eyes to match his pants and an arm on loan from God. This guy can do it all and has done it all.
Marino in the offense in cruise control right off the bat. 2nd and goal. Scott Mitchell in at quarterback for the Dolphins. A ball on the 5-yard line of Indianapolis. I think they're trying to get Bernie Parmalee a touchdown. The rookie out of Ball State takes it all the way down inside the 1.
Well, again, the the Colts, due to all the injuries, they've been rendered harmless as a heel hound, basically. But I think Miami is saying, hey, you came in our backyard a couple of weeks ago. You embarrassed us. You stopped our winning streak at 6. Well, payback's going to come back around today, and they're going to go ahead and grind it out and try to keep that offense on track.
Could we see Parmalee with his first NFL touchdown? He fumbles the football, and the Colts have it. So they drive it all the way downfield. Parmalee with some nice runs, and he wasn't able to handle the pitch from Scott Mitchell. So the few fans that are left at the Hoosier Dome cheer on number 92, Tony Walker, who came up with a fumble recovery.
Well, Tony Walker left the game a few minutes ago, but I think the defensive coordinator, Rick Ventura, he says, hey, you got to go back out there. We don't have anybody else to line up. And here, Mitchell makes a pretty good toss. He just doesn't look the ball in. Parmalee relatively untried in that backfield due to the fact he doesn't get much of a chance at playing time, but he wasn't watching it in.
Here, there's a disappointed guy from Ball State. Drove all the way downfield, had some great runs, and gets inside the 1-yard line and can't come up with his first NFL touchdown.
Right, in Ball State here in Indiana, his fans and buddies are probably going to rag him about that one a little bit.
Parmalee, a 4-year starter at Ball State. That pass is caught by Jesse Hester from Jack Trudeau. First down, Indianapolis. Minute 17 left here at the Hoosier Dome. He was out of bounds, so it is not a completion, so it'll be second down and 10 from the 1.
Well, the insult to injury, if they don't watch out, Jack Trudeau will be sacked for a safety here in the end zone.
Last shutout, December of 1985 for Miami. Bill Brooks can't hang on to that one.
Well, you fumble the ball, you drop sure passes, you throw interceptions that you shouldn't throw. It all adds up to a big lopsided loss. And you know, if Ted Marchibroda could take this game and dissect it, he'd say this is exactly what bad teams do, and you can't win if you play like a bad football team against the Dolphins.
Third and 10 from the 1. Trudeau is backed up in his own end zone, hurls one out of the sidelines, intended for Reggie Langhorne. Bobby Harden on the coverage for Miami, and here's a guy that's been just activated, number 45 for the Dolphins, after an Achilles injury in the offseason. He had surgery in May. He was injured in a charity basketball game, and this is a guy that Don Shula likes. Second year out of the University of Miami.
Well, he's a striker. Most all the players that you see around the NFL that come out of the University of Miami are strikers, and that's what you can't have enough of in that secondary. Guys that'll jaw balls loose when they make tackles.
Well, Ron Stark backed up at his own end zone, trying to strike one out of here, hangs it high. Boy, does he turn him over. No wonder he's the top-rated NFL punter. And this is Scott Miller across the 45, about down to the 43. 49-yard punt by Ron Stark. Once again, one of the few bright spots for Indianapolis. Well, our wrinkle-free cotton super play of the game. Not exactly a big factor in the outcome of this one, but it was the Hail Mary pass in the closing seconds of the first half as Dan Marino cocked it up and let it fly. And here's what happened.
Well, again, this was right at the conclusion of the first half. Really was not a factor, much like the Colt offense for the rest of the day.
Well, that was Mark Duper, who was able to come up with the wrinkle-free cotton super play of the game for Don Shula. There was a guy that was serious before this game started. You could tell that Dan Marino wanted to make sure that the Dolphins got back on track.
Well, normally I go out and talk with Dan a little bit before the game. Today he had nothing to do with it. Just said, hi, I'll see you later. And he really had a sense of urgency about it.
Scott Mitchell downing it under a minute to play. 50 seconds and counting. Our stat man Jeff Nelson today. Also like to thank our spotters Paul Farimsky and Jeff Yarborough, as well as our stage manager John Reiser. Scott Mitchell will take another knee and simply let this one run out. Miami, which lost its first game of this NFL season a couple of weeks ago to the same Indianapolis Colts, gets itself out of a 2-game slide with a resounding 28-0 win over the Indianapolis Colts. Victory number 313 for Don Shula. So the story here today from the Hoosier Dome, all Miami as they go to 7-2. The Indianapolis Colts, they fall to 4-5. That'll do it from the Hoosier Dome for now, as Miami wins it 28-0. And we'll step aside and head